And we're back again, back again, back again. The Sports After Party podcast. How we doing? You alright, Afo?
Yeah, I'm good, man. We're doing a late session one today. We're doing a late session.
Yeah, late
We've got
one, man.
business Jez in the building as well. Still got the shirt
Yeah,
on.
I'm in the office today. Just got back from Amsterdam, doing a little wheeling dealing, as you know. So yeah, man, all good, all good.
Nah, we love to
How
see
are
it.
you, bro?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. It's obviously the North London derby was the weekend just gone by. 1-0,
Yep.
Gabriel header,
North
closed out
London is
the
red.
game. Huh?
So North London's red.
North London. It's been red for a while now. It has been red for a while. But no, it feels good. Again, it feels good. We've got another big game this weekend. Hopefully, Arsenal can get the job against Man City. The last two
How
games
you
draw,
feeling?
so we'll
Feeling,
see.
start of the season.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, it'll be an interesting one. I'm trying to think any major injuries for Arsenal. I think if hopefully Declan Rice comes back, so that should be fine. Other than that, everyone should be starting. So, and Odegaard, actually, that's the concerning one. Odegaard got injured during international week, so hopefully he's fit for that game. But yeah, we'll find out. I'm sure as the week goes on. How about you, man? How you feeling? Got the big fight this weekend as well. We know how much you love a fight.
Yeah, man. I love a bit of AJ fight, him versus Dubois. It's going to be a big British bash, which I'm looking forward to. Two big men, just like swinging hammer and tongs. So that's going to be a great fight.
First one in a
And
while as
I like
well.
it because, sorry?
First, I guess first heavyweight big fight in a while. It feels like in the UK. Like
Yeah, yeah.
AJ hasn't really fought had big fights in the UK in a while, so it feels good.
Because of Turkey Al Sheikh and the Saudi influence, we haven't really seen that many big fights in the UK. So the fact that we're having this in Wembley
Yeah, yeah,
is going to be super exciting, and I think the crowd's going to be unbelievable. I'm looking forward to it. It looks like it's going to be a record breaker, which I'm really happy about
yeah,
because Tyson Fury had that record for a little while, and I just don't think he earned it. I just don't think he earned it.
yeah.
AJ was selling out Wembley stadiums and
Consistently.
Cardiff and Millennium Stadium and Tottenham, and he just Fury just came out of he didn't come out of nowhere. He just came out of obscurity, had a fight with Dillian White, and became the record holder for the largest fight in the UK. Now we're
Really?
gonna have AJ winning that back, which I'm looking forward to as well. Obviously, I'm an AJ fan.
Yeah,
Obviously.
yeah. We couldn't tell. We couldn't
So
tell.
yeah, it's gonna be a good fight. I'm looking
Good.
forward to chatting about it though, man. I'm looking forward to chatting.
Yeah. No, it'll be good, bro. It'll be good. How much you get to it?
Yeah, let's do it, man. Let's get straight into it. Let's get into the business side of things.
All right, cool. So I think it'll be good for us. There's four topics that are hot at the moment. So I think naturally with Tua having another concussion recently this weekend, that'll be a great conversation for us to have. So talk around NFL concussions and who's responsible for telling a player to stop? Is it the team? Is it the player? Or should it be an independent, I guess, doctor?
Mhm.
Another conversation as well. Players are complaining about having to play too many games during the football season.
Yeah.
Of course, this is the first season where there's more Champions League games that the players are going to have to be playing. So we'll touch on that and yeah, whether the players have a leg to stand on. Another conversation that's interesting with Tom Brady recently showing up at Birmingham. I think it was Birmingham City versus Wrexham last night. So there's now chat, and of course, there's a lot of American sports stars that are investing in football in the UK. So I think it'll be good for us to talk about the Premier League and whether we should be playing a couple big games in the US. And of course, finally, the big one this weekend, who's going to win, AJ or Dubois? So maybe we
Wow,
should
wow.
start there. How do you feel about that? Should we start there?
Yeah, let's start with AJ versus Dubois. Why not, bro? Why
Let's
not?
do it.
Let's get that one scratched off. So, AJ, he has had a resurgence in his career. He's come off big wins against Otto Ralin, Francis Ngannou. So he's on a good win streak right now.
Yeah.
Knockout wins as well. The starting all of that off was Robert Helenius getting knocked out by AJ. But what we've seen is that he has gradually just improved each fight. And I think a lot of that is down to the work he's done with Ben Davison, who's new coach and trainer. I think he's really dialed AJ in, and they're really precise about the way they go about their preparation for these fights. And I think that precision in preparation has given AJ some additional confidence as well. He seems like the type that's a bit of an overthinker, someone who likes to really get dialed into the detail, and he's just looking on point for this fight. Now, we also have Daniel Dubois. So he's come off some really good wins, in my opinion. Big Baby Miller, obviously Hrgovic as well. And then obviously he lost to Usyk, but it was a good fight. He hurt Usyk. Whether it was a low blow or a body shot is really debatable in that fight, but he gave Usyk a really good challenge. So, and he has a few attributes that I think will give AJ quite a bit of challenge.
Okay.
So he has a really good gas tank. So
Okay.
he has youth on his side. And I don't know if you notice this, Afo, when AJ is boxing, he doesn't have the best gas tank in my opinion, but he manages it really well. So he always has the fight when it's going well for AJ, he has the fight going at his pace, which is a little bit of a slower pace, a little bit at distance, and he can control the tempo. So he's in charge of when it ups the tempo or when it decreases the tempo. But Daniel Dubois can just go for days, I think, in terms of his youth, in terms of his energy. He can just continuously throw punches. And I think we saw that against Hrgovic, right, where he was getting lit up in those first couple of rounds, but just his relentlessness, just wanting to get to the target is what got him through. And one other bit before I hand over to you, Afo, as well, is that both of these guys is that people talk about their heart and whether either of them quit in previous fights.
Yeah.
So we have AJ against that famous night in Madison Square Garden where he fought Andy Ruiz. We see that some people think that AJ didn't want anymore and he didn't do enough to show the referee that he wants to continue fighting.
Yeah.
And then for Daniel Dubois, there are the two cases against Usyk, where people thought that he went down a bit too lightly. And yes, there was a stiff jab from Usyk, but was it enough to finish the fight? I'm not sure. And then you also have the case against Joe Joyce. Now, in the Joe Joyce fight, he had a broken orbital bone in his eye. So maybe you'd say, he was saving himself to fight another day. But
that hurts.
Yeah, of course. So is that the boxer's job or is that the trainer's job? Or I know we're going to touch on this later a little bit with the head injury thing. So we a lot of the time we just say that these boxers need to be like gladiatorial warriors.
Keep going.
And have to keep going no matter what. But it's a really interesting fight. It's a really interesting fight. As you can tell, I'm pretty excited about this one, and I think it's going to be blockbuster, bro.
So it's interesting you mentioned. So I think what's exciting about this fight, and obviously one of our favorites in Bummer Brown has actually been helping Dubois for this fight. So he's been helping Dubois prepare for this fight, and he's saying Dubois looks good. Again, I think I don't say that he was surprised, but from what he's seen and all the people he's helped prepare for fights, he's saying Dubois looks very, very good for this fight. And I think for both fighters, this is a legacy fight. There's a lot on the line. I was trying to think, like, who has more to lose? And a part of me feels like AJ potentially has more to lose here. So the pressure's on. AJ seems to have his mojo back. I think the fact that AJ has been able to get back into the flow of things shows how important confidence is in not only sport but in everything. And that's helped him. Even the way he's talking now, again, he seems to have more of a swagger about himself. He's feeling good about things. A bit more of an arrogance, which I think you need to have in boxing, and he seems a lot more self-assured. So yeah, shout out to AJ in terms of like being able to get back into the flow of things and feeling good about it. I think on the day, my instincts are telling me that AJ is probably going to make it happen this time. I think it's probably. I don't know if it's going to go the whole way, bro. I personally think it could be 5th round, 6th round in terms of when the fight stops. If it goes the whole way, and to be fair, I didn't know Dubois was known for having a tank, but if it goes the whole way, then maybe he can kind of take it at the end. But I think what's interesting with AJ with the fights I've seen, AJ seems to start really, really well, and then he needs a second wind. And then it seems like in between those middle rounds, he kind of loses it a little bit, and then he gets back up again. So, yeah, we'll see who comes out on the other end. But I think if I was a betting man, I'm not a betting man. My money's on AJ. I think AJ will see it through.
Yeah, I like that. I like the analysis you gave there, bro. Because I agree. I am leaning towards AJ. I don't think it's going to be an easy fight. I think that Dubois is going to come in hot at the beginning of the fight. But I have a feeling that AJ is going to be able to control him at distance and then land a big shot. Because one thing that we saw against Hrgovic in his last fight is that defensively, Dubois is not as sound as AJ, and that could lead to you can't take those kind of shots. I think he took like 30 right hands from Hrgovic.
Okay.
If you take that against AJ, you're going to get knocked out.
I've got another question for you, because I think something you have to take in consideration as well is one fighter has had the opportunity to fight in big moments more than the other. And I'm trying to think, like, what would you say is the biggest fight Dubois has been in terms of PR, the media, everything? Would you say Usyk? Because I feel like at that point, the hype was there, but the hype is not the same as what this fight is. So AJ's had the opportunity to, I think he's had like 4 big major fights where the pressure's really been on. And not say Dubois not had to deal with pressure with the fights, but it feels like with this one, there is a lot of pressure. Whereas for Dubois, this is probably the biggest fight of his career. I feel like AJ has had fights you could argue were the biggest fight of his career already. So he might be prepared. And let's say you get rocked, all of a sudden you lose your breath, your orbital bone goes again, start getting a bit anxious. Are you able to keep it together and I guess keep your wits about you? And I feel like this can be one of those days. It'll be good. I wonder who's going to have the crowd. I don't know if the crowd is going to be towards AJ or Dubois. My instincts tell me AJ. But yeah, like I said, I'm excited for it. Again, I think this is great for British boxing, and I'm happy that they brought it. And it'll be interesting to look at the numbers again, how much money they're going to both fighters are going to get off the back of this. But also interesting to see the viewership as well, because it's in London, because it's in the UK. Will the viewership go up? And that'll be interesting to see as well.
Yeah, that's all good, very good points, and I agree with you. I think when we look at sports, right, we all think. Okay, let me ask you a question. I think that the majority of people think, as a player, a pure player, if you're looking at individual attributes and skills, LeBron is probably a better player than MJ. But I think what people say about MJ is that when the light is on, when it's at its brightest, when you need him to score, when you need him to lead you to a championship, he'll do it. And I think the experience of AJ being able to know that he's done it in those circumstances before is going to lead him to the victory as well. And it's going to help him just stay cooler in those tough times on that fight. So I would lean into AJ winning, and I think Dubois will probably come back, in a couple years when I think he'll win a version of the heavyweight title again, because you have to remember this guy is super young. I believe 27 years old. So
prime.
Is he 27 or 24? But anyway, he's in his 20s.
I don't think he's 24 is young. I don't think he's 24.
I think he's 27. I think he's 27. And AJ being 34, he has the 27. Should have trusted my instinct. 27 and 34. So I'm glad that it's happening. I'm glad that it's going to be in the Wembley, Wembley Arena, Wembley Stadium.
Is it Wembley or Tottenham?
No, Wembley.
Okay, mad, because I'm pretty certain I saw advertising, unless Tottenham Stadium have a deal for boxing. But I'm pretty certain during the Arsenal game, there were.
Yeah, no, it's Wembley Stadium because they're trying to break the record, and I don't think Tottenham has the capacity to do that. Yeah, man, it's good. It's good. It's good.
No, that's big. That's big. And okay, so I guess in terms of transitioning, talking about, I guess, viewership and all that kind of stuff, the next part of the conversation, I think we should talk about, should the Premier League should the Football Premier League (EPL) be played elsewhere? So of course you got people like Tom Brady, JJ Watt again is another investor within not the Premier League but with the football club, and a few others as well are investors. And there's now more chats about whether the Premier League should be playing more games abroad or be playing games abroad. At the moment, they do pre-season games every year. And I want to say they've been doing that for the last 10 years. I want to say they've been doing that. La Liga have already started doing that. I'm pretty certain they played El Clasico in the US. So there's, again, I don't want to say that we'll be the first to do it, but it seems like something that's already happening. You think about the NFL being played in Germany, being played in the UK, basketball games being played in France, being played in the UK. What do you think, Jeremy? Should we be playing Premier League games in the US?
That's a great question, man. So I think in terms of the EPL and us wanting to grow the game, I firstly think football is the biggest sport in the world, in my opinion, in terms of touching every single part of the globe. I think in terms of the revenue that it would generate going to the US, some of those huge stadiums, whenever you see United on tour in America, they're selling out these stadiums, right? And I think there's a hunger for this fan base to want to see their teams play competitive games. But there are a few issues that we're going to come to, bro. And I think it's going to link a little bit to what Rodri was saying about Premier League players playing too much.
Yeah.
If we look at player welfare, adding a trip to America, that travel journey, the jet lag, that's going to add. I know they're probably going to be either flying first class or in the club's private jet, but still, I think that's going to add an extra layer to the player welfare argument about how these players are going to be just worn down from adding the travel impact into it. Now, the other point I think is around the competitive advantage and the impact it might have in terms of the Premier League. So if you look at Man United versus Arsenal, right? Home team advantage, playing in your home stadium is massive, right? If you take that away and put it on neutral ground, I'm going to be honest, there are more United fans globally than there are Arsenal fans, right? Okay. Does that, if you take away that from Arsenal at Emirates and put that in, I don't know, the New York Giants stadium, does that mean that you're taking away a competitive advantage for Arsenal in that game? I think you are. Although, obviously better team, but home field advantage plays a massive part in sport. It's one of the things I don't entirely always understand, but it's just something that you just know does have an impact. So those are two things that came to mind about why it may be tricky. But ultimately, I'm someone who likes to think of even though I just gave you two challenges about solutions, I like to think of ways that we can grow sport, make it more exciting, make it more interactive. And I think taking it to the US for a few games a season is a good thing.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I'm all about growing the sport. Anything that brings more money into the industry, again, is something that we both enjoy watching, something that we both have a love for. I think something that you absolutely do have to take in consideration, if you're playing one game abroad, so let's say Arsenal Man United, and you decide to do the Man United part of the leg to the Old Trafford leg abroad, Arsenal immediately have an advantage there if the second part of the game is played at Emirates. So I think that's going to be a massive challenge. I can't see any club being open to that because we've seen how close Arsenal have come to winning the league in the last 2 years, and even Liverpool before that. And there normally is a game or two games in it. So yeah, I can't see any club being comfortable and being happy with that. The more I think about it, I think the only way this works is if you do it as a one-off game. And when I say one-off game, I'm referring to maybe a Community Shield at the beginning of the season. Or maybe you're doing like a Champions League final. It's played there. So and maybe it's a way in which we can make the Champions League final more of or an FA Cup final more of a like a Super Bowl feel. And I feel like they already started to do that. So maybe that's something that they could do by taking it over to the US. Because if we're saying the US market is the biggest market and will help sports to be, or help football to be even bigger, then it's something that needs to be explored. I think something that's interesting as well, when I think about the biggest stars and how sport grows, and for me, the biggest example of a sport that grew, I feel grew overnight is UFC. And how people like Conor McGregor, Ronda Rousey, and in terms of becoming mainstream, obviously it was big to those that love mixed martial arts, but very quickly became maybe not on the same level as boxing, but was getting close in hype. And again, it'd be interesting to look at if you looked at the numbers of the biggest boxing fights at the moment and the biggest UFC fights, how they kind of compete. But you think of someone like Jude Bellingham now, and he's getting so much press. I love to watch a lot of American sports on American channels. And what's interesting is Jude Bellingham is used on so many different ads out there, which again is very, very interesting. And recently just signed a deal with Skims as well, so Kim Kardashian's underwear brand. And I think doing little things like that, that makes him more of a household name. Again, I guess with him starting to win in his first, is he second year in Madrid now or first year?
Yeah, this is second year in Madrid.
Second or third year, yeah. So second year in Madrid now. And I think when I think about Jude Bellingham, right now he seems as if he's the face of Adidas. And when I think about who's the face of Nike, moving away from Messi and Ronaldo, I couldn't tell you who is the face of Nike. I guess Haaland, but Haaland doesn't have the same commercial, even though, again, and it's interesting, I spoke to a sports agent last week and he was saying how, in terms of the money they're bringing in, Haaland is bringing in the most with Bellingham. But I think because Jude comes across very well spoken and comes across very charismatic and very charming, naturally, it seems as if he's probably he must be the most marketable footballer at the moment. And someone like Haaland, who is, I guess, on the other side of things with Nike, kind of makes me just wonder, with football to grow in the US, maybe that's what they need to start doing. They need to start identifying the stars in the Premier League and start amplifying them in America, because going down the route of picking a one-off, let's say a two-leg FA Cup game, I think that's problematic because one team immediately has an advantage. Or if you think about a Premier League game, if you do one game there, then the team has a disadvantage. So I think that's the challenge that comes with it, man. I think they need to figure out a way in which...
Oh, I've got an idea.
Huh?
I've got an idea. How about we do a Carabao Cup final in the US? That way, it's a cup final, but it's not. Okay, let's be honest. People don't really view the Carabao Cup as the biggest trophy available and going, right. I think when it comes to the FA Cup, I think it's quite important that that's played in England. But if you want to take an experiment and see how people react to a team getting to the final and playing and playing in front of an American audience, let's put the Carabao Cup in front of them and see how they react to that and see how the fans go out. The only challenge I would have to that is what if the Carabao Cup final is Fulham versus Luton Town, right? Maybe you might not get a big turnout in the States, but I think more than likely you'll probably get a big-ish team in there against one of the top 4, top 6 sides.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea because initially when I was saying FA Cup, that doesn't work because of the history that comes with the FA Cup. It's played in Wembley, the final. Yeah. Carabao Cup probably works, but like you said, then the challenge is the two teams. But again, I think if you look at the history of it, there's always one major top 6 team in it. So again, I don't think that's going to be of a major concern. Also, the Carabao Cup, teams typically don't play their best 11. Normally, it's their second best goalkeeper. other players that maybe don't start getting the opportunity to play that game. So again, opportunity for players to,
Mm.
so maybe again, the coaches won't have as big of a problem with it because they typically would rotate their squads more in a Carabao Cup final than an FA Cup final. So yeah, bro, I think that's a good idea. I mean, that potentially could work, but like I said, the biggest challenge would be who's going to be in those finals, and yeah, I guess how do you make it work in terms of the time that they need to take to be out there? Are they there for 3 days before? Are they there a week before? Do they do a whole press thing around it? Um, like I think the closest thing that we have to that during the season is when the team that wins the Super Cup, so the winner between the Champions League and the Europa Cup final, play against each other, and then they go on and play against all the other teams that have won their equivalent of the Champions League. And that happens normally during the season. So I think that's the only comparison. And typically, those players always come back a little bit exhausted, from my experience anyway, from playing Football Manager. But that's something, that's something that I've noticed as well. And yeah, I think that's the next thing to consider. That how does this affect the player welfare,
Mm.
the journey time,
So,
everything?
so ultimately, are you for or against?
I'm for it because I like the opportunity it presents, and I feel as if the Carabao Cup is a good test. I think Carabao Cup is a good test to see how the US market takes it, and I think it would be a good opportunity to make it into a Super Bowl. Maybe that's the way in which you make the Carabao Cup bigger. Maybe more of a trophy that teams want to care to win, is that you make it this big PR reward where again, yeah, it's played on a massive stage. Maybe that's the way you do. Maybe that's the way you do it.
Okay.
How about
Okay.
you? What are you thinking?
I'm thinking, uh, yeah, let's go for a, yeah, let's do it. Let's try it. Let's give these stars the opportunity um, to present themselves to this American audience. Let them get bigger. Um, I want to see the game grow, so I'm always willing to take some chances.
Question for you. So if I had to ask you now, going away from the traditional Neymar, Ronaldo, um, Cristiano, who would you say are the five biggest stars in football at the moment? I was going to say three, but I feel like three is too easy to answer.
Yeah, I think Mbappe. I think Vinicius Junior. I think Jude Bellingham, and I think Haaland. Did I say Haaland already?
Haaland.
Uh,
Yeah, you
no, I
said.
think I did say it. So yeah, Haaland, Mbappe, Vinicius Junior, Jude Bellingham. Now that fifth one, that's an interesting one. I think there's a few players that could fit into that role. I'm thinking, look, um, some people will laugh at this, but I think Rashford, in terms of star power,
Jeremy, please
he
stop it.
he
Jeremy,
has
stop it.
he has quite a bit of star power. He's probably lost it the past 2 seasons, but I remember, when he was taking photos with, Jay-Z, etc., that he was pretty up there. But okay, he's probably lost that. I think Saka is particularly a star. He's a star right now.
He's on so
Um,
by the way, he's on a lot of ads in the US as well
yeah,
with
yeah.
the new
Um,
guys.
I think, yeah, I think Saka is probably someone I'll put right up there. I also think
You
that
missed you missed the key name though, Mbappe.
no, I said Mbappe. I said Mbappe, Haaland, Vinicius Junior, and Jude Bellingham are the
Okay,
front
okay,
four.
cool. Okay, cool.
And then, yeah, that fifth person, I want to say Saka, or I'm thinking, you know, not Harry Kane. I don't think he's there.
Nah.
Um, yeah, yeah, I'm not too sure. Not too sure.
So yeah, I
Who
agree.
do you say? Who's your fifth?
So it's a tough one because I feel as if I think to kind of be at that level of superstardom, you have to play at the highest level. You have to be winning frequently. And someone like Saka, for example, even though we're getting close and he's getting close to finals, he hasn't really won. I think the last major thing he's won was an FA Cup. So yes, star power in terms of the deals he's getting, but I think part of being a superstar is winning the big games, and I guess I'm kind of linking that to other sports as well. Like if you're just if you're not winning the major trophies, can you really be called a superstar? So I think that's something to take into consideration as well, like your success. I think has to take into consideration. In my mind, I'm trying to rack through a bunch of other players in the Premier League. I think Kevin De Bruyne, but again, commercially, I think even though he's a star ability, commercially, and I guess kind of having conversation with some of the guys at Rock Nation, he's not really someone that cares so much on that side of things. He's more around the family orientated side of things. So again, commercially, again, doesn't do too much. No one else at Man City that I can think of. Maybe you could argue someone like Mo Salah, again, because again, he has a huge pool in the Middle East as well. Big pool in North Africa, has won at the highest level, consistently scores over 20 goals in a season. So maybe you can put him in there. And I think what's interesting is that we've named attackers and we've not really named a midfielder, defender, or goalkeeper. So part of me wonders. Actually,
Well, I mean, it's always been like that, hasn't it? I know Jude's a midfielder, but he's kind of like
Zidane,
that.
or Zidane, like
But
Zidane.
let's be honest, it's mostly attackers. It's Messi, it's Lewandowski, it's Ronaldo, it's Neymar, it's Wayne Rooney. It's always really the strikers and attackers who are top billing.
I guess whoever scores, I guess that's what it is. Because if Jude Bellingham didn't score at the rate he was scoring when he first went to Madrid, his profile wouldn't be as big as it is now. And I think what's crazy is that he scored, but the first half of the season, he seemed to be scoring every single week. And it kind of trickled off a little bit. If that's how he started off, I don't think his profile would have been as big as it is now. Because he literally hit the road like running. So yeah, he's gonna be interesting. I think even going away from this conversation, Mbappe coming to Real Madrid, it's going to be interesting to see how that dynamic works. Personally, I don't know if it's going to work and if they're going to win La Liga this season with him coming into, because I feel like there's too much. There's too much that's the Ancelotti, who I think is one of our all-time greats, to handle there. And we've already seen some issues on social media with Rodrigo and Jude Bellingham, where they both posted photos with them leaving the other out of the image. So, for example, Rodrigo posted an image with Vinicius and Mbappe, and then Bellingham also posted a picture of him, Mbappe, and Vinicius. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out. Bellingham has been in for the last 2-3 weeks, so I guess it's maybe helped Ancelotti's job to be a little bit better. But how do you manage players that all expect to be starting? I think that's going to be interesting to see and watch.
Hey, there's one person that can do it. It's Carlo.
We shall see. If they don't win this year, the pressure is on, man. The pressure is on. And we've seen very quickly that with the Real Madrid board, they're very quick to move on to people, regardless of what you've done in the last year. So, yeah, we'll see on that point, man.
Cool.
Should we transition to tour concussions? How do you
feel?
How do you feel about
Yeah, I mean, firstly, I think just in general, concussions are something that seems to always come and go. Every year, there's always a discussion about concussion in every sport. I'm thinking in terms of rugby, American football, even in football. There was that discussion. I mean, maybe it was a few years ago when they were talking about headering the ball and whether they should only allow headers into the game at a certain age level, so that people aren't causing brain damage from continuously heading the ball, which I thought is a very interesting concept. But maybe from the science it says that. Looking at this specific instance, we have a player who's continuously had concussions now for the last couple of years, and potentially this could lead to long-lasting impact on his career. I think the problem with football, American football, is that when you're wearing those helmets, your brain has nowhere to go. as though your head has nowhere to go. It's literally just bouncing inside the
Mm.
helmet. So I think it gives you a false sense of security in terms of, no, I'm safe here because I'm wearing a helmet. When actually I think you're putting yourself in more risk. In terms of concussion in this specific instance, I think the player and the team has to really ask themselves now, what are we going to be liable for moving forward? Are we gonna be comfortable being responsible for putting this player out who is continuously getting head injuries? And I think once you've had one or two concussions, it starts to become more frequent, and I think it's easier to get concussions like that. Um, then you really have to ask yourself, are we doing the right thing by letting this player go out there and play?
So I think for me, what would be interesting to know is when players sign their contract, is part of the contract the team is not liable or for any brain injuries down the road. Because if that's the case, then surely then all these teams are in big trouble when players are like 50, 60, 70 years old. So I think that'll be the first thing to know, because if that's the case, then I don't see a situation where the Miami Dolphins allow Tua to play again, because the whole world has seen what's happened here and it's been very much in our faces. So I think that's the first thing. The next thing is, I guess, and I was watching a video today where his old coach, Nick Saban, was saying how much of a warrior he is and how he never gives up on a play. So if that's his mindset, you can imagine that the moment he's given the all clear and told that he's good, that he will want to get back out there. So then the question then is, if you look at his brain and how it is now, and if it's healthy at this current moment in time, do you really have a leg to stand on to tell him, no, you can't play, or we're not going to put you out there moving forward? I think another thing you have to consider as well is I believe he has like $140 million guaranteed contract as well. And regardless, if he retires now, that money's guaranteed, like regardless. So a part of me then also wonders, in terms of investments, 140 million, that's a lot of money. Like regardless, even for a billionaire, bro, that's a lot of money, especially when you accept that you're not getting anything in return for that.
Yeah.
So I think that's another thing to take into consideration as well. Is yes, these teams might say they care about the health of their athletes, but I think sport has showed us as well it's ruthless. And the moment you have nothing to offer is when they kind of get rid of you. So part of me also thinks if he's given the all clear, he says, I want to get back out there, the team aren't going to fight him to go out there. If anything, the team maybe would make him sign something, but it'll definitely cover their ass. I can't see them just saying, yeah, we're going to write up 140 million because of this player's safety. No business typically operates in that way.
Yeah, I think there's a few things in that. If you consider the fact that when these people sign up to play these sports, like Nick Saban said, he's a warrior. And I look at it from the position of they understand what they're getting, what they're signing up for. I don't think any NFL player goes onto the field thinking, you know what, there is a small chance that I'm going to get injured. No, they know it's a high risk environment, and they know that they're not dumb. They can see the effects that CTE and concussion has had on their counterparts. So what I'm finding a dilemma in my head is that, look, if these people sign up to this, they understand the risk and they're willing to do it, then why should the NFL teams be responsible for that? Why should um, you know, why should they be stopped from being able to do what they love? And I look at things like, for example, bro, might be a bit of an obscure example, but there's Dana White's slap league, right? I think is one of the most ridiculous things on the planet. For those of you who don't know, Dana White gets these guys to slap each other one at a time, and the winner is last man standing, right? Until someone gets knocked out from being slapped. You can't defend yourself. You have to have your hands behind your back and just brace. I feel like that's barbaric. and ridiculous. And I don't think that we should be allowing people to do that. But these people have free will. They signed up. They're getting paid to do it. And from all things that I'm seeing, they're enjoying the fame or the small fame that they're getting from this and the money they're getting paid. So we look at this example with NFL players or rugby players, anyone playing a physical sport. They've signed up for this. If they're medically cleared to play, even though they've had 5 concussions previously, who are we to stop them? I don't know.
No, I agree with and I do agree with that. But I think, this is what I was saying, is it'll be interesting to know if there is anything in their contract that they sign where they sign away that that the team is not liable for any injuries or any complications I have in the future. I think that would be interesting to see.
Well, you remember there was talk of those lawsuits against the league, NFL, a couple of years back. I actually, that would have been good for us to research and see how those are going, right?
So Bree says they negotiated. So, but I think it was one of those ones where they settled. I want to say they settled on it. So NFL and concussions. I want to say they settled.
Because, obviously there was the whole CP film with Will Smith and all things were related to that. So if the NFL have already settled on that, and maybe they're not gonna, maybe they've tightened. You would imagine that an organization of that size and power would have tightened.
So they settled this year, 765 million.
Wow.
Yeah. So settlement was intended to be distributed to cover treatment for players who had been diagnosed with CTE, dementia, or other brain-related illnesses after suffering on-field concussions. So, we're interested to know if that's how much they prepared and it's done then. But again, I can't imagine the NFL is going to be prepared to keep paying that out. Again, naturally, I think they will cover themselves moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. You mentioned the slap. You mentioned the slap thing. I think that's very interesting. Jeremy, what's your number? Could you participate in that barbaric sport? Do you have a number?
Would I participate in the slap league?
Dana calls you now, Jez. I heard you talking shit about me on your podcast. What's your number? We want to get you there. We want to get TV to be slapped, live streamed.
What would take me to be slapped? So I'm a big boy, so I would be in the heavyweight division. That means getting slapped by some large men.
Big hands.
Yeah. I've seen that one where this person gets slapped and you see the whole left side of their face is just swollen. Their lips are. I think, realistically, if you gave me 500K.
Okay, okay.
I'm trying to be realistic here. Obviously, I could say millions, but I think if you gave me 500K, Dana, I'll participate in one match.
Final question: would you want to be the first to do the slapping, or would you want to be slapped first? Is it best to go first or second?
I think you want to go first.
Yeah, because that wing like you. Do win, and then you having to then hit someone after that. Yeah. Interesting. Yes, right, Dana, we told you the number, half the M. Pull up.
Exactly. Half really, and you've got me selling my pride and dignity.
Huh?
I said selling my pride and dignity, man. But hey. Anyway, bro. There you go, man. Another one in the books. Yes. Another one in the book. So, guys, we're here. If you have any topics that you're interested in and you want to hear from the Sports After Party podcast crew, let us know, man. Always happy to dive into them. What the people want. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Absolutely. So, guys, another one in the books. Cheers to you guys. The Sports After Party podcasts. Let's get it.
I'm a different type of rock star. I got class and I got Henny overflowing up my shot glass. And yeah, I know I'm not a keeper. But can you be my mamacita by the time I'm done with